To finish off this episode, we have War of the Monsters, the first game on this channel being played on the PS5 I got last year. In fact, it was the second game I ever played on this thing. Mortal Kombat 1, then War of the Monsters. I used to see it a lot on the PS4 store and decided, what the hell, not knowing anything about it other than the existence of the character Ultra V and that it's an arena fighter, a subgenre not seen on this channel since Destrager all the way back in episode 3 nearly 5 years ago. Or BCV in episode 7 if you want to count that. There is a story to this game. Aliens invade Earth, but Earth manages to fight back with a huge EMP that downs all the alien ships. But those crashed ships leak radioactive material everywhere, causing several mutations into giant monsters who all fight among themselves. There is a story mode, which is the same set of fights for every character, with the only change being the ending. For the gameplay, you have a large arena to run around freely in. I can jump, pick up the opponent or items to throw around, a medium attack that turns into a projectile when used at a distance with some characters, a heavy attack, and a few specials from pressing both buttons at once. The big special is marked as available by the little box with a red cross below the life bar. Meanwhile, the stamina bar going down the screen marks how much I can use my normal moves and normal specials, which are just harder hits. To avoid spamming, it goes down when I attack and refills over time. And I can lock onto my opponent whenever I want to avoid losing them. Along with that, I can climb the various buildings and tall rocks that fill up the stages. I can also taunt, my first time doing so getting me the trophy, Sticks and Stones. The big issue I have with this game more than anything else is the basic movement. The game feels almost like it has tank controls, with simply turning being the biggest challenge. I get they were going for trying to replicate the size and weight of a giant monster, but it really hampered how much I enjoyed a lot of the game, especially since the cast all have a different amount of tankiness to their movement, with the ones where the tank feel is stronger being the characters I enjoyed less. So let's talk about these characters next. I start with 8 characters, with 2 more to be unlocked, and I'll go in character select order, starting with Togera. He's your giant lizard. The thing I mentioned about the varying level of tank feel gave me a false sense of security when I started the game with him, as he generally doesn't feel too bad to move around with. He's also got a decently fun set of moves with his Baraka blades hidden in his wrist, along with the spiked ball on the end of his tail. All his main specials involve his blades too. Togera controls basically enough that he was one of the characters I enjoyed playing as. All the starting characters begin with 2 costumes and have 2 more that can be bought with the points obtained by winning matches in the story mode. I'll be skipping ahead so I can talk about all 4 costumes a character has at once. Togera's normal look is your standard big lizard and looks good enough. The second costume is a purple palette swap of that original, while the third is a pretty cool Mechagodzilla-esque costume. Since I use the 2-player mode to show these off, I can also show me getting one of my trophies, It Takes 2 to Tangle, which is unlocked through player 1's first 2-player win. The 4th costume is a more drastic change, making Togera look like a different character completely, with a completely different head with horns. Considering I had to grind the final boss for the points to buy these last 2 costumes, I appreciate them looking quite different. We've had the giant lizard, now into the next common monster type, the giant bug, with Praetor. She's a giant praying mantis with scythes on the end of her arms. She turned out to be my favourite character to play as. There was no tank feeling with her at all. She can turn on the spot, runs at quite a speed and attacks fast too. Plus she can fly. When all I had left was grinding for points to buy out the shop, she was the one I used since she made it go so much faster. As I get to her costumes, I'd just like to say how glad I am that they went with a giant praying mantis and not a giant spider. Her costume is a standard mantis, while the second one makes her red to more resemble a bipedal ant. The third costume is another robotic variant, while the 4th is another giant ant that gives her another different head with mandibles and a different set of wings. The 2 ant costumes I didn't really care for. Another classic monster next with the giant ape, Kongar. He plays how you would expect one of those to. He gets a huge scream for his special that sends the victim flying. He's another of the few characters I enjoyed playing with, as he's another that is easy to move around with. We're running out of those characters now. He's a standard brown ape in his default outfit, with his second making him white for more of a Yeti look. For his third costume, you can't have a King Kong tribute in a game where characters have robot costumes and not let this one have his own Mechanic Kong based outfit. His 4th costume has him look like he's made of crystal. I'd say he has the best selection of costumes so far. An actual robot next, not just a costume, with Robo 47. He has a fun presentation, with all the stuff shown with his robot body like the spinning torso, missile in the head for his special, and turning his hand into a hammer. But I like him less than the previous 3 characters because he doesn't have the easy movement those 3 have. He's still much more enjoyable than a few other characters we'll get to later though. He's all grey in his default outfit while the second costume adds some blue bits to it. The third outfit is another palette swap to red bits, while the 4th costume has him look a bit like IG-88 from Star Wars. Not the most interesting set of costumes if I'm honest. But next we have Agamo, a living tiki statue. Agamo is one of the stronger but slower characters. I did not enjoy playing as him. He was too slow with the long wind up to his punches, and his normal movement was the worst we've seen so far. What I do like about him is his special, ripping off his own head to use as a combined blunt object and huge bomb while growing a new head. His second costume makes him all green, while this third keeps him a greyish brown but covers him in a more elaborate pattern. His fourth costume is Mecha Sweet Tooth, inspired by the Twisted Metal character. This was originally only obtainable on the PS2 by having a Twisted Metal Black save file on the memory card, but this re-release removed that requirement. It's a pretty neat little crossover Easter egg. Using this costume in the story mode unlocks a trophy, You've Got a Sweet Tooth. The sixth character is that one I knew of before playing the game, Ultra V. Gotta have a huge mech suit too. It's okay. It's more mobile than a few other characters, and it has a grappling hand and high jumps, but I found its main attack combos kind of underwhelming. The animation just didn't have that impact for me that characters like Kongar and Togera had. I think it's the kicks, they always look just a little bit awkward to me. Overall, I'd put it just below the first three characters I looked at. While his normal costume is a good mix of blue and red, the second makes him all purplish silver, while the third goes for red and white. The fourth costume is an entirely different mech with a female body. A much better selection of costumes than the last mechanical character we looked at. Then we have Magmo, a 4-armed lava man whose special attack is breathing fire. I had the same issue with Magmo that I had with Agamo, in that I found him just awkward and unsatisfying to control. They even have names that are too similar. Although I found Magmo just a little bit easier to control than Agamo since his normal attacks didn't feel as slow. His first costume is your basic lava man, while his second ramps up the lava, covering the rock and making him bright orange. The third costume is a mechanical variant with digger hands, and the fourth has him covered in lava and on fire at the same time. The final character of the default cast is Kineticlops, a monster made out of electricity with a huge eyeball. His special is one of Raiden's Mortal Kombat 2 fatalities. Apart from that, he's okay. No big flaws. I don't have much to say about him. He starts off purple with his second costume being green. The third costume is black with a blue eyeball, while the fourth costume changes him completely into a fishman. There are two more characters that can be unlocked through the shop. After 3 story mode completions, I have the 200,000 points to unlock Raptros and get the Wrath of Raptros trophy. Collecting your first 200,000 also gets you a trophy Battlemaster. After seeing Raptros in the story mode and finding them one of the tougher fights, I was excited to try them out myself. Raptros was the least fun character in the game for me, so far. Crappy ground movement, with the flight intended to make up for it, but it's so big and unwieldy I hated flying too. And in general, naff attacks that make fighting more than one opponent at a time incredibly tedious. What a letdown. Costume 1 has it mostly brown, the second is purple, and the third is green. The fourth costume turns it into a skeleton dragon. That's pretty cool, wish it could have been on someone I'd want to play as. After my 5th story completion, I have another 200 grand to unlock Zorgulon, getting me the Zorgulon Unleashed trophy. And playing as every character at least once gets me the trophy It's a Monster thing. Zorgulon is an alien, and somehow less fun than Raptros. Both secret characters taking about 15 to 20 minutes longer to beat the game with than everyone else. Crappy, slow as shit claws or robot arms when firing up close, and not much better mobility either. Just a boring, tedious experience all the way through, praying I don't get knocked away and have to slowly get back and slowly throw out more slow punches. The second costume swaps the green body with blue. The third is also a palette swap, while the fourth is a completely different head with just one eye, and no hands at the end of its arm tentacles. And that's the full playable roster. A decent selection of common movie monster types. It's just the issue that I didn't enjoy about half the cast and only actively enjoyed 3 of the other half. But now comes the game's story mode, called Adventure. This is exactly the same for every character. Each fight is framed as a film, complete with a poster. To start with, we have Day of the Colossus. Kongar is seen running from and then fighting back against the army before he climbs a building and spots your character. This is a very simple stage, a park in the middle and a few buildings surrounding it to climb up. Defeating Kongar for the first time here gets me the trophy, Your First Battle. The second chapter is Revenge of Togera. Togera is in Vegas, taking out a couple helicopters before he starts fighting you. A large stage, but just a single street in a straight line. Defeat Togera and more tanks and copters appear for you to use as weapons against the Robo-47 that fights alongside them. After that is Outpost X. The first phase of this fight has me against several very weak Praetors in their red costumes. This stage is kinda boring. Small with a few rocks to climb and not much else. But the second phase has me against the game's first boss, Goliath Prime, an army mech. He hops on top of this bunker and starts throwing bombs at you. Just have the bombs not hit anything, pick them up and throw them back. After a chunk of its health is done, the platform collapses and it falls down to my level. At that point is this charge attack with its propellers that has a long wind up time. Hide behind a rock pillar and let it run into it to stun itself and then get a few hits in. Don't let it punch you back though, because it can be devastating. If it grabs you, you could end up stun locked as it can grab you out of your fall from the first grab. It gets some more moves in its last third of health. They're shooting missiles from its hand, and they spin attack that can only be avoided by climbing up a pillar and waiting for it to tire out. If your character has a projectile attack, spamming it here is also effective. Taking it out for the first time gets me the Defeat Goliath Prime trophy. The 4th chapter is then The Creeping Chaos. Praetor can be seen outrunning the army and taking them out, but I'm not her only opponent, as the army also have their own Mecha Kongar that they drop in the streets. They're on separate sides, but most of the time both of them will gang up on me. There is another city stage, but larger and with the park in the middle gone, swapped for a set of rails along the outside where you can pick up the passing train and brain your opponents with it. It can be a bit of a pain since while you take out one, the other can be sneaking off looking for health restoring items. Chapter 5 after it is It Came From The Skies. Here I have to fight 2 Raptros on a small aircraft carrier surrounded by water, and these 2 are on the same team. Not much space to hide, being to the perfect stage for one to beat you up close while another hangs back and spits fire at you from a distance. One of my least favourite fights in the story, and one I was never happy to replay. For Chapter 6 we have Battle for Atomic Island. I'm on an island with a huge nuclear plant that has created 4 Kineticlopses. However, they are not the target. I have to destroy all the cooling towers around the island. Around the middle is an electric fence, and I also have the army trying to take me down too. These 4 Kineticlops are much easier to deal with than the 2 Raptros from the previous chapter. Take out all those towers and a countdown starts that ends with the plant being wiped out. This leads to the second boss fight against Vegon, below where the plant once stood. Each of its 3 heads will spit stuff at me before one goes to bite me. While its mouth is open, I can then do some damage by shooting down its throat if I have a projectile, or throwing a boulder if I don't. After enough damage, one head will die and the others will recede and tentacles will start shooting from the ground underneath me. So I need to just run around the arena. I then just repeat the pattern on the other 2 heads until the whole thing is killed, netting me the Defeat Vegon trophy for the first kill. Chapter 7 is Battle of the Titans. The UFOs are back and wipe out the army, but the army also have 2 Robo-47s to fight them off with. After taking out the aliens, they get bored and pick a fight with me. This stage is large, in a city with several downhill streets to the beach. It only becomes a problem if you're a slower character than Robo-47 and one of them decides to run off from you uphill and hide. Another one that's less annoying than the Raptros pair. After that we get Terror in Paradise. We see Agamor sent flying away by Magmor. The 2 smack each other around the city until they land in front of me. Aliens are also flying around during this fight and shooting at me. It's another town by a beach, but this one is flat, with the slopes here leading into a volcano. Chapter 9 is Destroyer Wave. 2 Ultra Vs in the 2nd and 3rd costumes land in front of me for a fight. This stage is something that probably wouldn't happen if the game came a few years later, having your game's Tokyo equivalent named Tsunopolis for the huge tsunamis that can hit the stage. It's quite a small stage with a few buildings that are also the tallest in the game and surrounded by water. The aliens are flying around here too, but this time they have a purpose, as once you defeat both opponents, you get abducted. This leads into Chapter 10, Terror in Space. The ship that abducted me docks on the mothership, and inside I have to fight 3 Zorgulons. I'm not a fan of this stage. It's too cramped, and even then I never explore all of it. That 2nd floor I very rarely set foot on. I tend to get stuck in one segment, battering all 3 of them at once. Once they're all taken out, I get beamed back to Earth and the mothership explodes, sending one surviving ship hurtling towards the planet. This leads to the final boss and final chapter, Terror from Beyond Time and Space, Cerebulon, Destroyer of Worlds. Landing in Washington, out from the crashed ship emerges a huge mech, far bigger than any playable character or previous boss. It has an electrified body that sends you flying if you try punching it, along with a laser with good tracking that chews through your health. But after that it will crouch to recharge, giving me access to its brain to get some damage in before the barrier comes back on and sends me flying. So I just keep hiding behind the scenery, slowly lowering its health when I can. After enough of that, the mech bursts apart and out climbs the brain with some mechanical tentacles. This grants me the remains of the mech to throw at it for quite decent damage, but get too close and it's an electrocution that lasts for a while and sends you flying. Keep throwing the debris at its head and it will collapse, its brain dome breaking. Out comes Cerebulon's true form for the rest of the fight. He's still going strong, able to smack me to the other side of the stage. And he can get around much faster. I found the easiest way to take him down wasn't through strategy or working out how to counter his attacks, but to pin him against a wall and beat the shit out of that punch button. He barely gets to fight back, getting me the trophy, Defeat Cerebulon, Destroyer of Worlds for the first win. Every character has an ending showing their origin. For Togera, a ship fell into the sea near an ancient Godzilla-like and awakened him, leading to him rising up in front of the boat. Praetor was created when some old scientist dude got himself some of the alien waste and decided to dip some on a praying mantis, leading to her eating him when fully mutated. Konga was already sent into space as a normal chimp before a crashing UFO slammed right through his capsule, the radiation saving him by mutating him as he was burning up on re-entry. Robo-47 was decommissioned and rotting in an abandoned warehouse when a UFO landed nearby and reactivated it. Agamo was an actual tiki head until some dumbass deliberately poured alien goo in his head and mutated him. The guy gets squashed for his role in this. Ultra V on completion was powered by a salvaged alien ship, leading to it going out of control and destroying those who built it. Magmos is simple, UFO lands in volcano, Magmo comes out. Kineticlops was once a man working at an electric power station until a UFO crashed inside. The alien waste merged with the electricity and bonded to the man, transforming him into a big eyeball carried by an electric frame. Raptros and Zorgulon share the same ending, which isn't really an ending. It's a behind the scenes video of interviews of the developers sharing their thought process and how their ideas came about. At least I assume so, but this video is a million times quieter than the rest of the game and I could not make out a word of it. I have no idea if it was like this on the PS2 or if it's a mistake during the porting. At this point, all that's left is buying out the rest of the shop. I already covered buying the 2 characters. After my 6th playthrough, I spend 105,000 on unlocking the dodgeball minigame and the if you can dodge a monster trophy for buying it. After my 7th playthrough, 85,000 goes to the Crusherama minigame and the trophy of the same name for buying that. Then after my 8th, 65,000 goes to the Big Shot minigame, getting me You're a Big Shot for buying it, and Master of Minigames for getting all 3. I also buy all 3 of Raptros' alternate costumes and Zorgulon's second costume. My 9th playthrough gets me the points for Zorgulon's other 2 costumes and Togera's 4th costume. Then my 10th playthrough gets me points for Togera's 3rd costume and Praetor's 4th. After that comes saving at the final boss fight and grinding it for points as Praetor. Another 200,000 to buy Agamo's Sweet Tooth costume, then unlocking some stages for free play, the UFO for 105,000, the Capitol from the final boss fight for 85,000, Mini Baytown for 65,000 and the Volcano for 45,000. Getting all stages gets me the trophy, Destroyer of Worlds. Then comes the rest of the costumes. Praetor's 3rd costume, Konga's 4th, Konga's 3rd, Robo-47's 4th, Robo-47's 3rd, Agamo's 3rd which I forgot to record me buying, Kineticlops' 3rd, Ultra V's 4th, Ultra V's 3rd, Magmo's 4th, Magmo's 3rd and Kineticlops' 4th. Buying all of them gets me the Monster Fashion trophy, and that is every trophy in the game, just not shown in the order I got them. But before I end it, let's have a quick look at those minigames. First we have Dodgeball. It's Dodgeball. I also don't have a second player, so this Zorgulon here just has to take it to the face. Big Shot has you jumping off a ramp to land on a target, each with differing amounts of points for the landing. Not very interesting. And Crusherama is both players competing over who can smash up the most buildings in this tiny space. And there's War of the Monsters. Sorry to say, I didn't care for it. 10 characters and I only enjoyed 3 of them. It was that mobility I complained about, it dragged down the experience of the whole thing. I get they were trying to get across how playing as a giant lumbering kaiju may feel, but it didn't do it for me. Plus, while I've enjoyed a lot of fighting games that have been slammed for being too simple or not complex enough, the movesets for this game are too basic even for me. I've also just played arena fighters I enjoy far more than this. I like the variety of the playable cast, but having the only single player run be exactly the same almost an hour just makes things tedious. I didn't enjoy any of the boss fights either. When it comes to games like this that are obscure but still have a small dedicated following, I do feel a bit bad crapping on them like this, but what can I say? I can't enjoy every game.